Hello world, I'm Chris Pirillo, and you've tuned in to another live edition of the Locker Room Daily Report, or TLDR for short. It's an hour or so worth of me, or I think it's worth something. It's worth at least 60 minutes-ish. I usually start by diving deeper into a topic, and then I move on to the Daily Pirillo picks, and then after that I answer questions from the community, and those are usually tech-related, geekish in nature. People have questions for me every day. And then I talk about the day's geek news. Today's topic is something that I realize is not as immediate as it might be were I sharing it when I was actually watching something, but I'm going to give you my 3 reactions to watching the full first season of Jessica Jones, which is something that you can watch on Netflix. Now, if you don't have a Netflix subscription, you're probably missing out on some of the better content which is out there today. Even if you don't spend a lot of time sitting in front of a screen, and I'm assuming you do because you're probably closer to normal in our culture, and we all have access to the internet, every one of us, including you, because I'm only available on the internet, exclusively on the internet. Netflix is creating a series of original programming, and that's something that is certainly been interesting. And I've watched a few of the Netflix originals, and I think that out of the grand scheme of everything that you might be able to subscribe to, Netflix is right up there. It's more than just renting discs. In fact, I remember Netflix back in my day. All Netflix was a way to get DVDs in mail. Yeah, but they've definitely evolved, and they will continue to evolve. I watched Daredevil, the entire first season, and liked it. And I wasn't sure about Jessica Jones. In fact, I watched 1 episode of Jessica Jones, and then I just kind of put it on pause. I forgot about it. I admit it. I watched 1 episode, and usually I'll know whether or not I'm going to be hooked on a show after the first episode. But I've learned that, especially with this type of content, where you can binge on something or watch, an entire season in one sitting, which I've been known to do. By the way, I watched Making a Murderer a couple of weekends ago. I watched the first episode, and then the second, and then the next thing I knew, it was 2 a.m. I had watched all 10 episodes of the first season, and am now checking the subreddit near daily for that particular show and in the drama around it. So I watched Jessica Jones, and I realized very quickly that sometimes to get into a show, even if you don't really want to get into the show, or you're not necessarily driven to get into the show. So, for example, if it was Star Wars, I would want to get into the show. But given that this is a part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I really wanted to get into the show. I've learned that sometimes you have to get through the first season of a show to appreciate the second, or to get to something that has substantially more meat to it. And I discovered that by watching just the first episode of Agent Carter, which is also a part of the MCU, broadcast on a completely different network. So, that was my lesson that I learned. My initial reaction to Jessica Jones was, I'll wait. It was okay, but it just didn't, nothing really sucked me in. And then I decided, after watching Making a Murderer, I was thinking, well, what can I watch now? What else is out there? And I said, I'll just pick up Jessica Jones. I'll just get it over with. And that's how I felt going into Jessica Jones. I'm just letting you know. So one of the reasons that I was compelled to even watch Jessica Jones, beyond it being a part of the MCU, is I like David Tennant. He is my doctor. And I was just curious to see how David Tennant would play this role. Kilgrave, the enemy, the arch nemesis during this particular season. And I wasn't sure if I'd be able to see him as more than just the doctor. And those fears, so to speak, were allayed quickly. He must be a good actor. I mean, I can't sit here and say, definitively he's an amazing actor. I really enjoyed him as the doctor, and I enjoyed him as Kilgrave, which tells me he's got range. I believed him as a good guy. I believed him as a bad guy. He was believable. And I liked that. David Tennant he's more than just my doctor. He's now Kilgrave as well. So I thought David Tennant was stellar. That was a reaction that I had, but it took more than just 1 episode. I wasn't just going to see an episode and go, oh yeah, David Tennant's the most amazing. It didn't quite take the full season. In fact, one of the other points that I've mentioned, and I've probably given you more than just 3 reactions to watching Jessica Jones. It took me about, I want to say right around the halfway point. And that is when I felt it. That is when I hated Kilgrave. I hated this character. And David Tennant as playing the character, acting as the character. I had you started jumping off of the bed. That was my only real true physical reaction I had. I was like, oh no! I was yelling at the TV. And when I start yelling at the TV, and this is something that is reserved for just a few shows. So now I can say that Jessica Jones is one of those shows. I never jumped off the bed or screamed for Daredevil. I realized that I enjoyed Jessica Jones more than Daredevil, and binging both, and knowing that Netflix produced, or they happen to be produced in conjunction with or on Netflix. Daredevil can't necessarily be compared to Jessica Jones, but if I had to choose between those two in terms of a favorite on Netflix, I would say Jessica Jones topped Daredevil, despite another reaction I had. And I tend to recoil when it comes to certain types of scenes. I don't like violence. I don't like a lot of blood. I'm not a horror movie fan. I'm not a zombie fan for another reason. But there's some amount of graphicness that was replete, that every so often would rear its ugly head intentionally. It wasn't done gratuitously. So the fact that it wasn't done gratuitously, allowed me to accept it as a part of the show in general. So that was just, again, it was, if I had a negative reaction to anything, it was that. But I got past it pretty quickly because it was done to help move the show along. It wasn't done gratuitously. I'm not a fan of that. But I was a fan in terms of how they executed on it. I think that the shocking point for me was recognizing that I liked it more than Daredevil. And I liked Daredevil. I mean, I appreciated it, but I wouldn't say it made me a Daredevil fan. I'm very much looking forward to the next season, and we'll continue to watch it. Pretty much, if they're producing it within the MCU, I'm going to watch it. And so that's where Jessica Jones fits within the grander scheme of the MCU. And I guess Luke Cage is getting his own spinoff, which kind of shocks me. I mean, I don't know if I would necessarily see that as a logical out of, this is obvious. Luke's going to get his own show. But, hey, however they play it, yeah, I'll watch it. I'll give it a shot and then let you know what I think. It's something that I've recognized in talking to other people. They'd seen Daredevil and they liked Daredevil, but they haven't seen Jessica Jones. And I don't know why. Maybe it's the name. Oh, Jessica Jones doesn't sound that exciting. But I think that's part of the allure to me. In terms of a hero, anti-hero, a protagonist that antagonizes, I thought Kristen Ritter did an amazing job with the character. And, it just kind of melts away as the idea that she is who she is. It plays well. And, I found myself enjoying the show and falling into the groove and, really appreciating everything that went into it, more so than I did Daredevil. There are some people, though, who still can't get past just a few of the episodes. And I'm not going to say you need to, but some people couldn't get past certain points when they believe certain things should have happened and they didn't. Like, oh, you could have had him. You could have done this. You could have done that. And I guess I didn't really feel that, or I knew that. Well, inevitably, it wasn't something that threw everything else off for me. I felt that it progressed as naturally as it could progress. I wouldn't say that made the character any less believable, or the situation any less believable. I mean, certainly I see some odd situations, but just knowing that, some people have different expectations for these types of shows. I knew that, hey, I'm in it for the long haul. This is not something that's going to be, solved in a day or figured out in a day. Unless, of course, you binge the whole thing in a day, which you could. I think there were 14 episodes in the first season. You could have done that. I don't think I could have done Jessica Jones in a day. It took me a few days to binge on Jessica Jones. Once I got past the first episode. So I say, give it the halfway point. If you've only seen a few episodes, give it to the halfway point. And then it may pull you the rest of the way in. Then you start feeling it. I don't know. I liked it more than Daredevil. That was my reaction. I am going to now move on to today's Pirillo picks, and I've got a few of them. Three awesome things. I think they're awesome, but that's my personal opinion, as opposed to it's your opinion. I always want to throw the animated GIF up there. That's my opinion! You've seen the animated GIF, right, of that? Someone from The Real Housewives. That's my opinion! I should include that in every video that I do. After that, I'm answering questions from my patrons, and then after that, I'm talking about today's news in the world of geekery, and that's largely going to be tech-related, and I do that every single weekday. Again, for my patrons. You want to become a patron and get all of TLDR? Head over to chrispirillo.com. Today's free podcast highlight was brought to you by all of my active patrons from chrispirillo.com. If you want access to the full TLDR episodes, both audio, video, past, present, and future, which can be up to an hour long or longer, with even more tech insight from me every weekday, plus other bonus content without ads, and support me at the same time, you can sign up to become one of my supernomies too. This is just a brief taste of what I'm producing for you daily. Again, get more through chrispirillo.com.